I am your coach, Galel Fajardo, here to talk to you about the bottleneck blueprint. And this is a topic I am quite, um, quite passionate about because, again, I'm biased because I'm a business coach. This is how I make a living. And I am so passionate about this, though, regardless, um, because I really believe that business owners need to have outside eyes. Business owners need to have outside accountability. They need to have people that they trust who can help them spot where they are being the bottleneck in their business. And that kind of gives away the whole premise of today's presentation is the fact that if you're a business owner and things are slowing down in the business and things are not happening as quickly as you would like, it is likely because you are the bottleneck. And so I don't say that to make you feel bad, make you feel guilty, but this is the essential thing that as a coach, I am constantly helping my clients figure out as business owners, where is it that they are slowing things down in the process? That way, it allows the business owner to actually do less. It takes away it takes away a lot of stress from them, right? And then the business then runs on the systems as opposed to just the pure willpower and adrenaline of the business owner. And so today, that's what we're going to get into. We're going to talk about how we identify these bottlenecks in the business and then how we start fixing them. All right. So, first thing, a lot of business owners, actually, every business owner I talk to, right? They want more leads. Oh, I need more leads, Galel. My business needs more leads. But the fact of the matter is that the problem is generally not going to be an external problem. It's typically an operational issue, right? So, what I mean by that is that the business owner is buried in decisions that somebody else should be making, or the systems inside the business, they're outdated, or they have too many steps, they're too complex. The business owner is reacting constantly instead of taking a leadership role. These are all different elements that lead to bottlenecks and lead to massive, massive problems in a business. And so, as a result of that, I think it's very important that you, as a business owner, recognize that if you pride yourself in constantly staying busy, you're never going to grow. And there's this identity element I think that we can talk about where business owners, if they're not just constantly doing stuff, they feel like they're not like gosh, I feel so guilty because I'm not doing very much in my business. Well, if other people are executing on your vision, this is what a business should look like, where other people are executing. You're calling the shots, right? So we have to make sure that we are diligent about identifying what it is that's keeping you stuck in this busy work instead of actually growing the business. And if you look there on the screen, right, the faster you find friction, the faster that you can reclaim freedom, which is ultimately what I want for you in this process. Now, what is a bottleneck, right? A bottleneck is the point in your business where output, efficiency, or momentum drops no matter how hard that you work. So it can be one of a few things, but I've identified four different things that it could be here. It could be you, and it's likely you in many cases, where you've got decision fatigue from just constantly making decisions. You have perfectionistic traits where you're like, I'm a perfectionist. I can't move forward unless it's absolutely perfect, right? Another example is lack of trust and delegation. We've, talked about this, many times inside of my private community about how to delegate properly, how to build that trust. When it comes to trust, I've got a Bible verse that's right here. Okay. Luke chapter 16, verse 10. This is a reminder for me, by the way. It's not about delegation for me, but you can apply this. Okay. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. This is a reminder to me to make sure that I stick to my standards, right? Letting people trust me with the little things so they can trust me with the big things. So, for you, if you have a lack of trust and delegation, it's possibly because you've been burned in the past, right? So, how do we regain that trust? A bottleneck can be a process. It could be manual steps, too many handoffs, missing automation. It could be the wrong tools, right? Bottleneck can be a person who is either in the wrong role. There's poor communication to them, poor communication from them. There's unclear ownership as to who really takes charge in that piece. It could be a system, tools that don't integrate, or data that's never used, stuff that's outdated, right? Again, you can't scale what you can't see. So mapping your flow gives you power. It gives you perspective. And so this is what we're going to be talking about today is actually mapping certain processes and then leveraging AI so that we can find solutions for some of these things. Now, this is something like a mantra that I keep repeating over and over again, right? Where I say that entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs, they don't have a strategy problem. What they have is they have a clarity problem, and clarity is a system. Okay. So, how do we find this clarity? How do we apply this? Well, we have to ask ourselves a handful of questions. Okay. So, number one, you're trying to fix symptoms instead of the source. So, what happens is there's a problem, and this goes back to the whole Eastern medicine, Western medicine example that I've spoken about in the past, where Western medicine seeks to just solve a solution to the pain, temporary relief, but long term, there's still something wrong with the patient versus Eastern medicine's like, well, let's go to the root cause of the pain and let's go and figure out what it is in your body that's causing this pain and let's solve that problem. So I think far too often, because as of time of recording, it's 2025. I think far too often business owners are really trying to, they just want to solve pain instead of get to the root cause of the problems. And so we need to make sure that we are constantly going to the root cause. Be a doctor, get to the root, or be an Eastern medicine practitioner, get to the root cause, right? I'm not saying doctors are bad. My mom's a doctor. I love my mom. She's a great doctor. But we've got to get to the source of the problems. Stop using band-aids. Next is that you are chasing complexity instead of simplicity. This is one of my problems, okay? One of the problems that I work with my own coach is he's always asking me, Galel, how can we make this easier for you? How do we make this easier? And so, one of the things that I'm always looking at is how do I chase simplicity? What would it look like if it were easier? The answer does not always have to be super complex. I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 times when I'm giving somebody business advice, excuse me, my client goes, oh, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? Right? Because we somehow think that the solution has to be this big complex thing, and it doesn't have to be. We want to go after simplicity. So it's not more tools, more steps, more meetings. It is simplicity. Next, you're running at full speed in the wrong direction. So, activity without alignment is just expensive motion. That's just like no other way of putting it, right? People are like, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Busy doing what? Busy doing what? I see it time and time again. Amateur entrepreneurs, amateurs fill their calendar to the brim every single day, trying to do all the things they need to do. My calendar, tries to stay as empty as possible. I front load it with the really important stuff, stuff that needs to get done, and I give myself space to be able to think and then take care of other things I need to do. But trying to pack a 5 pound bag of potatoes with 10 pounds of potatoes is not going to work for you. Amateur business owners, they are trying to do that every single day, and that's not going to help you. It's about focusing on what actually matters. A lot of times, when I see a business owner packing their schedule completely with tons of activity, they're running from something. They're hiding from what actually needs to be done. So if that's what you're doing, I really want you to pay close attention to that. Next, you're too deep in operations to see patterns. So, you know, I use this analogy often talking about like firefighting, right? So if you're fighting fires constantly, and you're just like constantly in the firefight, you can't redesign the building, can you? Because you're too busy holding a hose trying to put out the fire. So if you're too deep in the operations, you cannot see the patterns. I mean, you need to find a way to gain clarity by elevating yourself above what's happening. Get yourself above the fray, get outside eyes. And this is where I can come in, look at the business and say, oh, this is the challenge that you're experiencing right now. Okay, no problem. I get it. This is what's going on, right? And so this is where I really believe in mentorship, having help, outside eyes is going to help you grow faster. So let's talk about the bottleneck blueprint here. Okay, this is the three-phase process to help you reclaim your time. And it's very simple. Three M's, right? You map, you measure, and you modify. Okay. So mapping, get every process and responsibility out of your head and into a system that you can actually see and analyze. Okay. Every single process, every single responsibility, get it out so that we can see it, visualize it, what it looks like, all the flow, the steps needed to go to make this happen. Next is we're going to measure. We're going to use data. We're going to leverage AI. Find what's wasting the most time and energy across your entire operations. And then next, we're going to modify. What does that mean? We're going to simplify, right? We're going to automate. We're going to delegate, or we're going to eliminate low value tasks that slow you down and drain your focus, right? So map, measure, modify. Mapping is going to get us that clarity, right? Measuring is going to help us make data-driven decisions, and modifying is just we need to now change the process as a result of the learnings that we have from here. So let's talk about phase one, the mapping, okay? Seeing your business the way it actually runs, okay? So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to start with a visual representation of how work actually flows through your business. Not the ideal way, not like in a perfect world it would flow this way, but like how it actually works, okay, day to day. And what you're going to document in this process is every major workflow, you know, from lead generation to sales to delivery to any admin, operations, anything else that happens, okay? You have to identify when you're documenting this process, when you're mapping this out, who touches each step and what tools are being used in each step of the process. What I want you to do as the owner is I need you to circle the steps that still require your personal involvement. That's very important because in many cases, if you are the owner and you are having to make decisions throughout this process, you're being pulled into other directions. And if you need to step in and we see this process, say it's a sales process, right? And we see that there's two major circles where you are involved, that you have to be part of the process, but you're also handling admin, you're handling finances, you're handling operations. You are going to be distracted and you are going to slow down the process. So we need to circle those steps that still involve involve you. And we need to note where decisions or approvals create delays. So, for example, there's a client I'm working with right now. They sell, I'm just going to keep it in general terms, technology solutions. Okay. So they work with really big companies and they provide technology solutions. And one of the challenges has been that one of the major players in the company is being pulled into different directions. And prior to a sales proposal being sent to a prospective client, that key individual has to be brought in for an approval. And the excuse has been, well, this person has a visionary role. They know this better than anybody else. They're the only person who can provide that approval. And I said, well, what if that person didn't exist? What if that person became ill? What if, God forbid, aliens abducted that person? Then what? Would you lose the company? They're like, well, it'd be a very scary thought. I said, well, start training somebody else. So they actually found somebody in the company who's like also kind of also on the executive level and began to cross train this person to like map out, point out the things that are going to be needed when sending out these proposals. And they're leveraging some AI for this as well. And now, guess what? That person no longer was a bottleneck in the process. Some of you may wonder, okay, well, how do I build a map? Like, how do I do this flow? There's a tool that one of my clients uses. He introduced me to called Miro. It's kind of like a mapping tool where you can like create these little mind maps and stuff. And so that's one way you could do it. You can use Notion, you can use Whimsical to build out a clear visual map. And then what you can do is ask AI to analyze that workflow, identify where manual input is waiting on you or a particular role, and is slowing things down. That is just a very simple AI, prompt to then, so you map it out, circle where you're the bottleneck, and then just say, analyze the workflow, identify where manual input or waiting on me is slowing things down. So that's first step one is first step, mapping it out. Phase two, measuring is attaching real data to this workflow. So now, again, as my friend Gavin McHale says, data over drama. Numbers do not lie. They reveal where time and energy disappear into these black holes of inefficiency. So, number one, I would look at is how long does each step take? So, I want you to, this is the reason why I love CRMs, is that it will actually track the time from start to completion, not estimated time. Because I'll tell you right now, all of us as business owners, we are terrible at estimating time. We underestimate how much time certain things are going to take, and we also overestimate how much time or how many things we can get done in a certain period of time, right? So we need to know actual amount of time spent from start to completion. We need to look as where do tasks sit idle waiting for action? We need to identify these handoff delays and approval bottlenecks. Very important, massively important when we're working on this. Next, looking at how many things actually require your sign off. So, counting decision points where you are the single point of failure. If you are the single point of failure in multiple steps, guess what? You're going to have a slow process. So, you can't complain about it if you have all these problems, right? And then looking to see where clients or leads lose momentum because there is the customer journey, right? From first inquiry until closed sale. And then after closed sale is retention and how do we get them back as a client? I want you to find the drop off points in your customer journey, right? Where is it that your clients or your leads, they lose momentum in the process? That's very important as we're measuring this. So, some of the metrics that will help you look at that specific point is number one, your retention percentage. If you have a monthly recurring revenue and you have clients that are billed monthly, like what's your percentage of clients that keep billing and continue billing month after month? I need you to look at your, closing percentage. How well are you closing? What's your percentage of lead to close, right? Um, One of my good friends, Joe Marcoux, who runs the SOS Dojo, Sales Objection System Dojo, to teach people sales objections. He gives the metrics of leads set, so how many leads actually get set for a call, show, so how many leads that were set for an appointment actually showed up to the sales call, so lead, set, show, and then lastly is close. Of those that showed up, what was your percentage? So if you look at those numbers of leads, settings, showings, and closings, those metrics there will show you where it is people are falling off. So if you are, not setting enough calls, that means you're not creating enough urgency, enough value to people actually for people to actually book a call. If you are setting a lot of calls, but then few people are showing, your show percentage is only 10%, 90% of people that book a call, well, that's a place where your leads are losing momentum and you can dive in a little bit further and figure out what do we need to do to improve our show rate. And if your closing percentage is no good, well, then that means we need to find a way to fix that closing percentage, right? How do we help you overcome sales objections? How do we get you to improve your sales skills so that leads do not lose momentum? And then same thing in the client journey, right? If you have a place where clients are falling off or they're only billing a maximum of X number of months and your MRR, your monthly recurring revenue, begins to fall off, well, we need to take a look at those patterns and make sure we recognize what's actually happening. And so you can use tools like ClickUp, Notion, Airtable, create dashboards. You can use something as simple as Google Sheets, throw data in there, and you can ask AI, hey, compare the last 30 days of activity. Show me which step consistently takes the longest to complete. That's if we're looking at how long does each step take. If we're looking here at where do clients or leads lose momentum, put in those lead set show close numbers, and that is something that we can analyze. It's also something that if you're a part of my private community, the Freedom Circuit, share that data, and then I can help you identify where it is. Or if you're one of my private one-on-one coaching clients, that's something that we can dive in on, on WhatsApp via text message. We can go through those numbers and help you figure out what the solution is. So what do we do first? We mapped. Number two, we measured. The third step here is to modify. So we're going to turn that clarity into leverage. And this right here is where it really becomes fun because now we can start removing friction by applying the ADE formula, automating, delegating, eliminating, right? So if you're watching, you're learning the ADE formula for the first time, right? Automating. So to automate, first step, repetitive rule-based work that follows predictable patterns, right? Then we delegate what a capable person can do at 80% of your level, right? What is it that we can hand off to a capable person to do at 80% of your level? And then lastly is we're going to eliminate everything that doesn't drive profit, peace, or purpose. Each time that you remove friction, you're going to increase output without increasing stress. This is the essential thing here that I need you to capture and understand. When you remove friction, you increase output without increasing stress. That is the compound effect of having intelligent systems. And so, how do we use AI for this? Right? We can ask AI to suggest 3 automations or SOPs that could speed up this process without sacrificing quality. Again, outside eyes, we're leveraging AI and it's infinite wisdom or close to infinite wisdom. There's only one source that has infinite wisdom. God is not yet AI. But, Chat GPT, Claude, they try their best, but they make up fake things. So it's not infinite wisdom. So you're going to ask AI, right? Suggest these automations or SOPs that could speed up your process without sacrificing quality. Now, based on my experience, here are a lot of the bottlenecks that kill growth. Okay. So, number one, founder reviews or CEO or owner, right? Reviews every deliverable before it goes out. So, quality control. So, in the name of quality control, it becomes a choke point that prevents scalable delivery. That's one. Next is team communication is reactive and scattered. So you've got messages that are spread across email, you got Slack, you got text messages, Instagram DMs, all this stuff. It creates chaos. I'm going to ask you, keep your communication simple. Keep it simple. With my assistant, for example, and again, I've got just a couple of team members, right? Handful of team members. Some very part-time, some that work way more hours. So with my assistant, I put in my projects in monday.com. And then if I have follow-ups, I message her on WhatsApp. Or if I have questions about things happening on a daily basis, or if we need to talk real quick, she needs to give me an update on something, we use WhatsApp, right? But I'm not sending her an email. I'm not sending her this. I'm not sending her that. I'm just putting it all into one single solitary place. Number three, data is collected but never analyzed. So again, data is valuable information. We've got to analyze it. Again, leverage your tools, leverage AI to help you analyze data. So if you're collecting data, never analyzing it, these are insights that can help you transform your decisions. And somebody's got to be looking. So we've got to make sure that we take time intentionally to review the numbers so that we can make decisions off of them, so that we're making data driven decisions and not making decisions based on vibe or gut feeling. Systems are patched together instead of integrated. So, this is where manual data entry between platforms wastes hours every single week. We want to make sure our systems are integrated, are working together. So if you have disjointed systems, we have to identify those. So that way we're not doing double entry, that we're using proper automation so that when information comes in on one place, it gets inputted into another. And another one is that the owner, founder, CEO, business owner, right? The founder, they hold all the keys. It can be passwords, it could be client updates. Everything relies on this one person. That is really bad. That's really bad. When everything relies on one person, that one person holds the keys. You need that person to unlock certain things. Leverage your tools. Why would you have one person have all the passwords? Use a tool like Bitwarden or LastPass where you can share passwords to give people access, or just spend the money and create an additional account for somebody to be able to access a tool that they need to be using, right? Don't, two-factor authentication is another one of these bottlenecks. It drives me nuts when clients are like, oh, I can't access this because I need so-and-so's two-factor authentication. Like, that's amateur hour, absolute amateur hour. We need to make sure that we have things moving smoothly. Okay. Don't rely on one person's availability. And no scorecards, no accountability rhythm, right? If you've got no clear metrics, teams are going to shift their priorities. Priorities become very subjective. They change from day to day. You got to have yourself a regular rhythm, a regular scorecard, a regular accountability rhythm, you know, every single day. All right. We've got to be looking at how we remove friction to make life easier for you. Now, here are some AI tools that can help. So, again, AI doesn't replace any people, but it can help make things really, really easy for you. So, of course, ChatGPT is like the standard that everybody likes to use, most people like to use, or Notion AI. This will help you map workflows, summarize SOPs, draft process improvements in minutes. If you're a part of my community, the Freedom Circuit, you have access to my Automate and Delegate toolkit that's got tons of prompts on SOPs and delegation. And you've got just tons of prompts in there that you can use. Make or Zapier. Allows you to connect systems and automate handoffs between platforms seamlessly. I am a fan of Zapier, so I use Zapier to connect my different tools. Fireflies or Fathom. This allows you to record meetings or extract action items automatically, so you don't have to take manual notes. For me, inside of Zoom, so I use Zoom, and I have the AI Companion. AI Companion is what I use to be able to extract my action items from my calls. So, like if I have a call with a client, like I'm doing a coaching call, I will run the AI companion. And as I'm talking through it, we'll come up with action steps. We hit the action steps button. It gives us a nice, beautiful summary of what that client needs to accomplish prior to our next call. That way, you're not having to take manual notes all the time and be distracted. You can be fully present in the conversation. And I would encourage you to do this with team members. Another tool that I do not have listed on here is this device that I have right here. I'll put a link to it down below, and that is Plod. So it comes with a magnet, and so my phone has a magnet also for my just to be able to like go onto a tripod. And so this device right here, Plod, is really cool. It was recommended to me by one of my clients, and I'll put a link to this down in the description. But Plod, this it connects to a phone app, and it allows you to record meetings, record anything, and then when you're finished recording, it will create a summary for you with action steps, and it uses Chat GPT to summarize everything into like here's the summary, here's key notes, timestamps for when certain key things were said, and then here are the action steps. Make life easier for yourself. Stuff will not fall through the cracks if you're using recordings, and I'm telling you, Plod is awesome. ClickUp AI helps you track time, priorities, completion rates with really great insights. So, my tech-based companies that I work with, a lot of them use ClickUp. Um, so yeah, that's a great solution if you're needing to track time and priorities. And then Gamma is what I like to use now to create slide decks. So I can take my content that I put together, throw it into Gamma, and then it'll make it nice and clean as you're seeing here. So you can do the same thing when you create your insights and you need to create nice, clean strategy decks for your team. Gamma allows you to do those very quickly versus having to manually create slides. Nobody needs to do that. All right, so here is the framework, okay? The fixed framework to help you with an action plan so we can get immediate results. Audit, right? So first thing, choose one core workflow this week. It could be sales, delivery, client onboarding, something. Next, identify. Find the slowest or most painful step in that workflow. Then you're going to apply ADE and AI, automate, delegate, or elimination to streamline it. You're going to revisit the process. Check that process in 30 days, measure the improvement. How have things progressed over the past 30 days since identifying that painful step, applying ADE, and using AI here? And then you're going to repeat. So you're going to apply the system to the next workflow. Don't reinvent it, right? Now, remember that before this fixed framework, you have to identify what the problem is, right? So, what I think is very important that you don't miss out, right? Don't miss this first phase of mapping out how things run, right? So, map, measure, modify, right? Don't skip that part when you're doing your ADE and AI. That is part of the process in here, okay? So your audit, you're going to identify, you're going to apply ADE and AI, revisit, and then repeat. You're going to apply the system to the next workflow. Don't reinvent it. Just apply this fix framework to it, okay? Now, we talk about how a chain's only as strong as its weakest link. Same thing, your business will only move as fast as its slowest system. So if you fix the friction that your business is experiencing at the time, you're going to be able to fix the future. So, but this only happens if you stop trying to do everything, right? If you are constantly having to execute rescue missions for your business, you're screwed. You can't scale that, right? It's just like scaling chaos. So we've got to get you to identify your biggest bottleneck. Let's work together. I'll help you map it, measure it, modify what's holding you back. This is what I do with my one-on-one coaching clients. So if you want to learn more about that, reach out to me, send me a DM on Instagram, shoot me an email, g@galel.com, and we'll get in touch and see if my coaching is a fit for you. All right. So hopefully this helps you today be able to eliminate the bottlenecks. You are likely a major bottleneck in your business, but it's not something to feel bad about. It's something that all of us as business owners have dealt with at one time or another and are constantly trying to fix. Okay. We're constantly working on this. That's where you apply this fix framework. All right. So, with that, thank you so much. If you're in the Freedom Circuit, watching this in the Freedom Circuit, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this and if this was helpful for you. And we'll see you next week with an additional training topic. Have a great one, everybody.